Hi, everyone. I'm Vladimir Jutia. We are watching all the news happening in the United States and around the world. Check out these feeds coming into us from the CBS stations and affiliates all across the country. If it's happening out there, we're going to bring it to you live right here. Our correspondents are on the ground with a look at the impact on all sides of what's happening in the Middle East. Let's get to that. Also, we're going to talk about police arresting a man with guns in his vehicle near a Trump rally in California, what led officers to him, and where the investigation stands right now. And new CBS News polling shows Vice President Harris in a dead heat with former President Trump. We have updates on their campaigns and the issues they're focusing on today. This is CBS News 24/7. All right, as we just told you, we're going to begin with developments out of the Middle East, where at least 4 Israeli troops have been killed and dozens more injured in a Hezbollah drone attack on an army base in central Israel. Now, this all comes as the Biden administration has announced that the United States will send a missile defense system along with troops to operate it in Israel. A U.S. official tells CBS News that around 100 troops will be sent to the country. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio. He's tracking all the developments for us this morning from Tel Aviv. So, Ramy, you've been up to this Israeli base that was struck in that Hezbollah drone attack. What more are we learning about this incident?
Vlad, hi there. Yeah, it's only about an hour's drive from here in Tel Aviv, and we're understanding that this is one of the most lethal strikes to hit Israel since the war started on October 7th of last year. And what Israel is now trying to learn is how that drone exactly got through the country's advanced air defenses. We know that those defenses are precise, they're high-tech, and they are some of the best, really, in the world. Some local media reported that that drone was flying low to the ground, which may have helped it evade surveillance. It was then able to fly south by some 65 miles south from Lebanon, target that airbase, the Golani airbase, which we understand trains up raw military recruits, then smash through the roof of a dining hall, killing and wounding all of those soldiers. And that attack does show, Vlad, that Hezbollah can strike deeper into Israel beyond the border area. The militant group said it was in retaliation for 2 Israeli strikes just last week on Thursday in Beirut that killed more than 20 people.
Yeah, we had always reported, you and our other foreign correspondents, Ramy, that Hezbollah was a very different enemy than Hamas, and we're seeing that play out now, sadly, tragically. Let's talk about what we know about this deployment of these U.S. troops along with that new missile defense system.
Yeah, we're talking about THAAD here. It stands for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, and this can shoot down ballistic missiles. A U.S. official confirms around 100 U.S. troops are also being deployed here to help operate that. And the context of this is that this is happening as we wait for Israel to potentially retaliate against Iran, and that is after Iran retaliated against Israel 2 weeks ago. That was on October 1st. And the key here is that that was with about 180 ballistic missiles. The last time the U.S. deployed a THAAD battery was just after Hamas attacked Israel back on October 7th of last year. There was concern Iran and Hezbollah would join in that attack. And the Pentagon said that this new deployment is what they're saying part of broader adjustments to keep supporting Israel and to keep protecting Americans here from those attacks from Iran and from militias that are aligned with Iran across the region. And it's important to note that this green light came straight from President Biden to the Pentagon, and this deployment is now happening.
All right, Ramy, thanks so much for your reporting. We appreciate it. Stay safe. All right, the head of the UN's refugee agency has warned this morning that the situation in Lebanon could worsen further. More than 1 million people have been displaced by the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Our Deborah Pata has more on the impact the conflict is having on civilians.
I'm in central Beirut, where you can see people have pitched tents, forced to sleep out in the street. Already more than 1.2 million people in this country have fled war. That's around a quarter of Lebanon's total population. They've fled from the south, they've fled from the Bekaa Valley, and even from nearby the southern suburbs in Dahia. And they've fled because of this war. There are shelters, but there's simply not enough room in the shelters for all these displaced people. And many tell us that the government is doing absolutely nothing to help, which is why they are now forced to sleep out in the street.
Deborah Patta reporting to us this morning from Beirut. Deborah, thank you. All right, days later, recovery efforts from Hurricane Milton are still underway. We're going to take you live to Florida after the break. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. The Secret Service and the FBI are investigating the arrest at a security checkpoint near a Trump rally in California over the weekend. The suspect was taken into custody without incident and was later released on a $5,000 bail. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane has the very latest on the investigation, and he joins me now from the White House. So, Scott, break down what happened.
If federal investigators say former President Trump was not in danger at this event Saturday, and federal law enforcement source speaking with CBS News says this was not any indication of an attempted assassination. What police do know is that Vem Miller, a 49-year-old from Las Vegas, is accused of having two unregistered loaded firearms in an SUV at a security checkpoint at that Trump event in Coachella on Saturday. They say the car he was in was kind of disheveled, that it had a fake license plate, that there were fake IDs and boxes of ammo inside, and that somehow Miller got past the first security perimeter claiming he was a journalist, but didn't get past the second one. And Miller, for his part, says he is a Trump supporter. He was invited to the rally. He's been trying to help with the re-election campaign. He calls these accusations lies and says police are mistaken. He's charged with 2 misdemeanors, Vlad. He's been released. He'll have a future court date. But the feds are emphasizing this was not any indication of an attempted assassination, even though the local sheriff, who has made social media posts in support of Donald Trump, has alleged otherwise.
All right, Scott, so we reported that he posted bail, but what are some of the other charges he could possibly face?
So there are misdemeanor charges at this point for allegedly possessing the firearm and high-capacity magazines. Now, there are federal investigations underway, but there's no federal charge here. There is no FBI affidavit filed in the courthouse. There's no U.S. attorney bringing a federal charge. These are local misdemeanors. His next court date is weeks away.
All right, let's switch gears now and talk about hurricane relief efforts. Is Congress coming back early, or any plans to come back early to approve some emergency funding for folks who sorely need it?
Here at the White House, they've been urging Congress to approve new money to replenish FEMA's disaster aid pot and also to fund the Small Business Administration, which helps homeowners and businesses devastated by hurricanes do their rebuilding. The small business money could run out within weeks. The FEMA money is also running dry. The House Speaker, speaking with Face the Nation this weekend, says there is enough to get through until Congress comes back in mid-November. Take a listen to Mike Johnson.
The states have to assess and calculate the actual needs, and then they submit to Congress that request. As soon as that is done, Congress will meet, and in bipartisan fashion, we will address those needs. We'll provide the additional resources, but it would be premature to call everyone back now because these storms are so large in their scope and magnitude, it's going to take a little bit of time to make those calculations.
Vlad, it's unlikely Congress moves to come back to Washington this close to Election Day. The entire U.S. House is up for re-election and campaigning right now. But I tell you, Vlad, this is an untraditional political issue. It's a bipartisan members of Congress urging Congress to get back here and play it safe, including those from the storm zone. But at this point, their argument is not breaking through.
All right. Scott MacFarlane for us, reporting from the White House this morning. Scott, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And Kamala Harris are hitting the campaign trail in the battleground state of Pennsylvania today. This, as CBS News polling shows, a razor-thin edge between both of them. Harris is leading by just 3 percentage points nationally and by just 1% in battleground states. CBS News Election Survey Executive Director Anthony Salvanto explained earlier today there is one factor contributing to how close this race is.
One reason this race is not just so tight, but doesn't move very much, is that each camp, Harris voters, Trump voters, not only disagree on what should be, but also have very different views on what is today. Take a look at one example. Let's look at hurricane relief, which has been so much in the news. And these differences, majority 2/3 of Trump voters feel that hurricane relief funds have not been going to people impacted by the hurricane, but 9 out of 10 Harris voters say that they are.
All right, for more on the race for the White House, we have a team of our campaign reporters based in Washington to break it down for us. Let's begin first with Jake Rosen, and then we'll pivot to Nydia Cavazos. So, Jake, let me begin with you. The Trump campaign this morning. What can you tell us about the event today that's going to be held in Pennsylvania?
So Donald Trump will be in a Philly suburb later today. The campaign has really spent a lot of time focusing on the central and western part of the state. He's coming back towards Philadelphia, where Republicans have been outspent in the state, though a ton of money has been going into Pennsylvania politics this cycle. And the campaign has really made an emphasis of courting these voters on economic issues in the suburbs of major cities. We've seen Donald Trump go to the suburbs of Harrisburg repeatedly, the suburbs of Pittsburgh repeatedly, and now he'll be in the suburbs of Philadelphia. This comes off of a weekend where Donald Trump was in Colorado and California, two states where he is extremely unlikely to win, as we know, Vlad. But he's making the same argument to them that their lives would improve, same as any of these battleground states, on things like immigration and the economy if Donald Trump gets reelected.
All right, Jake Rosen reporting for us from Washington. Jake, thanks very much. Let's bring in Nydia Cavazos, who is now breaking it down for the Harris campaign. So, Nydia, the vice president is in Pennsylvania as well this morning, but she's targeting her message specifically to African-American men. Explain why she's doing that and how it fits into the context of what we heard last week from former President Barack Obama.
Good morning, Vlad. Vice President Harris will be focusing on courting specifically black men throughout this week, and we're going to be seeing it through different campaign efforts and as well as today in Pennsylvania. But the reason here is because while this is a group that still heavily supports Democratic candidates, they tend to lean Democratic, and Harris does count with the same level of support among this voting group as Biden did in 2020. The catch here is that among this group of voters, black voters specifically, talking about these voters, they tend to lag behind white voters when it comes to voter turnout. So the challenge here and the goal for Harris is to make sure that black men end up turning out. And we ended up seeing it this morning as well with Vice President Harris unveiling new policy proposals that are also directly targeted at helping black men. For example, she's also unveiling policies that providing $1 million loans for black entrepreneurs, national health initiative that is intended to focus on diseases that particularly impact black people. And all of this is an effort for her campaign to do outreach and to make sure that black voters and especially black men end up turning out to vote in November.
Yeah, although, as you point out, Nydia, 80% of black men do support the vice president. So that's not anything to sneeze at. Nydia Cavazos for us reporting from Washington this morning. Thanks, Nydia. As always, we appreciate it. Okay, we are following a developing story out of southern New Jersey. One person was killed when a light rail commuter train struck a tree that fell onto the tracks. Several others have been hurt. CBS News Philadelphia's Waukesha Bailey is on the scene in Mansfield Township, New Jersey. Waukesha, what can you tell us this morning?
Well, good morning, Vlad. That's right. We are still waiting to hear the details of this horrific crash that involved killing the train operator along with injuring nearly 20 people. Now, this was the scene earlier this morning. Just after 6 this morning, a Riverline train traveling southbound from Trenton struck a tree on the tracks. The crash happened north of Roebling Station. 42 passengers were on board, 23 sustained non-life-threatening injuries. The train operator once again was killed in the crash. Riverline service was suspended in both directions between Florence and Trenton. Now, the New Jersey Transit Police, they are investigating this crash, and Governor Murphy has briefed us also on this crash as well. Sending it back to you.
All right, Waukesha Bailey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, let's bring in CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Grant Gilmore with the first look at the national forecast. Hey, Grant.
Hey, good morning, Vlad. Good morning to you guys at home. I'll tell you what, man, big changes coming our way across a good portion of the United States, especially in the Northeast. Let me throw in some of these daytime forecast highs across the Northeast today. Places like Raleigh, 73, but you head up towards New York, Portland, Maine, temperatures are only going to be in the mid-60s in New York, but Maine, temperatures staying in the 40s. A pretty strong cold front is going to be sweeping across the Northeast. In fact, already bringing showers, even some snow. I'll talk about that in just a second. But look at this cooler air that is settling in across the Northeast as we go throughout the day. Meanwhile, head south with me. We'll head down to Texas, places like Houston, looking at high temperatures in the 90s today, and then Phoenix doing what Phoenix does, and temperatures climbing up to 101 degrees. Still record heat across portions of the desert Southwest into the southern plains. Let's drop all this off here. Let's talk about the forecast across the rest of the country here, where, again, cooler temperatures coming in behind this cold front for a good portion of the eastern half of the United States, and staying cool for a couple of days. Look up towards the northeast. I'll talk about this in a second, but you've got rain mixed with some snow. Again, hot conditions all across the southern states and staying very warm across portions of Florida, as many folks across the Sunshine State continue to recover from Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. Let's talk about the snow and the changing seasons over the Northeast. Places from the Adirondacks into the Green Mountains and the White Mountains all experiencing not just snow, but accumulating snow. Some places could pick up 1 to maybe 3 inches of snow. Meanwhile, the Appalachians up through West Virginia may see some light dusting of snow as well. In fact, some lake effect snow coming in behind that cold front. The lakes are relatively warm. That cold Canadian air rushing over those warm waters of the lakes, producing some light snow flurries. But again, seasons are changing, Vlad. Look at that, 1 to maybe 3 inches of snow from New York into portions of Maine. Winter's almost here, buddy.
All right, exciting things happening in the world of weather, including snow. Grant, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll check in with you a little bit later. Okay, let's talk about the cleanup that's happening in Florida after that devastation left behind by Hurricane Milton, which struck the state, of course, last week. Over the weekend, the president toured communities damaged by the deadly storm, and he pledged full federal support. CBS News correspondent Tom Hansen joins me now from Treasure Island, Florida. So, Tom, explain what's behind you and what people are telling you about the recovery efforts.
Yeah, Vlad, well, Grant was just talking about snow, and I have to say, driving through this area, it feels like when you drive through the aftermath of a blizzard with those giant snowbanks. But this is sand, thick sand, and debris. And I want to show you, if you want to follow me over here, just how large this sand pile is. This is all from the ocean. It was pushed in during Helene, and then cleanup efforts came underway, but then Hurricane Milton struck. And you can see this is about twice my height, if not higher. It goes to the second floor of the house over there. And basically, this is a testament to the 1-2 punch of 2 major hurricanes in this area, which have left this community and so many other coastal communities just absolutely devastated. We met with people who just got back here for the first time yesterday to see what was left of their home. And one woman told us that it absolutely took her breath away. This community is unrecognizable from what it was before, which was an idyllic kind of coastal community. Now, Helene really brought in the rain, or excuse me, the surge, and that's what pushed it in. You can see the sand. This is the situation just across the street from these beachfront properties, but this stretches on and on and on. And if you were to actually follow me back into those communities, you would see homes and cars that are almost completely submerged in sand. So this is just a huge task for recovery teams to clear that out of the way. And I want to show you, this is where the ocean is, just over here. But before these catastrophic weather events, that wasn't the case. The beach stretched on for a couple hundred yards out into the water. And because of the power of that storm surge, now the ocean is just right over here. A lot of these coastal properties are just right on the beach. They have no protection from the water if there is another storm. And we know that we are still in the tail end of hurricane season. That is front of mind for people as they start to pick up the pieces of what's left, Vlad.
So, Tom, even before Hurricane Milton struck, there were fuel shortages as people were stocking up on fuel or just simply trying to get out of Dodge. What are you hearing about fuel shortages now? Are there still fuel shortages in the area?
Yeah, there absolutely are still fuel shortages in the area. We've seen gas station after gas station where the pumps have those plastic bags on them, although that is starting to change. There is some relief on the way. Over the weekend, Governor DeSantis announced that there would be state-run fuel areas where people could drive through, get up to 10 gallons of fuel for free. But over the weekend, this is one statistic that we saw. 1 in 3 gas pumps, or gas stations, I should say, was fully tapped out. Now, as we've seen driving around, there is an effort to refill those. There are trucks that are going around all these areas and trying to get gas. But even we have waited in gas lines. And the gas line that we were at over the weekend stretched for probably about a mile down the road. At one point, you couldn't even see the end of it. So people are understandably frustrated. And of course, gasoline also is critical to the recovery efforts. Those trucks that are coming around, digging out, they also rely on gasoline. So until the gas is restored, the recovery efforts are going to be slow going, Vlad.
All right, Tom Hansen reporting this morning from Treasure Island, Florida. Tom, thanks so much, brother. Stay safe. All right, so let's keep on the subject of hurricane relief. In Georgia, there was some that was given from thousands of miles away. CBS News Minnesota's David Schumann introduces us to a volunteer who just returned from the Peach State.
I gotta sleep. Susan Sparling Mix has earned some sleep. She's been going almost nonstop for 2 weeks straight, crisscrossing the state of Georgia, surveying as much damage as she could from Hurricane Helene.
Georgia was really far north and unusual for a hurricane to go up that far.
Susan's volunteered with the Red Cross doing damage assessment for almost a decade. She returned home to Plymouth this weekend and shared with us what she saw.
Most of the damage was from trees falling on houses, cars, and you see the houses cut right in half. And the mother with 3 kids, the house has a tree through her son's bedroom, and they're not allowed to live there. The landlord said you can't stay. He doesn't know when it'll get fixed. She can't even get her things out except maybe carrying armfuls of clothes because there's 4 giant trees in the backyard.
Susan's role is to find where the damage is and take pictures of it.
Well, we sometimes will stop in the city hall, or if we can find emergency management or a cafe. Hey, how's the damage where you live?
She says the Red Cross needs her documentation to then come in with resources.
I think I'm lucky to be able to go help people because that's what you want to do. You want to help people. We were still encountering people after 2.5 weeks from the hurricane that don't have electricity.
Susan is considering another mission soon, this time to Florida, where the worst of the damage from Hurricane Milton is.
A lot of people say thanks for coming.
Yeah.
You know, where you live? Minnesota. Yeah.
That's right, Minnesota, bringing our signature Midwest nice to where it's so very needed right now. David Schumann, WCCO News.
All right, the United States is sending troops and a new missile system to Israel. We're going to break down the role for these forces and how this American weapons system works. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. Here's a look at some of the top stories we are following this morning. Jury selection begins today for the man charged with the double murder that rocked a tiny Indiana town 7 years ago. Richard Allen is charged with killing 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German as they went for a hike in a secluded wooded area. The case has generated so much media attention and online that the judge has ordered the jury sequestered without cell phones or access to newscasts. South Korea is accusing North Korea of getting ready to destroy parts of roads between the two countries. Tensions have been rising because Pyongyang has claimed Seoul flew drones across the border. Kim Jong-un's sister called the South Korean military mongrels tamed by Yankees. And today she said the, quote, master of those dogs has to face consequences for the alleged drone flights. She appeared to be talking about the United States, which of course has not responded to those charges. China has wrapped up large-scale military exercises around Taiwan. The drills simulated the sealing of key ports involving 125 aircraft, as well as aircraft carriers and other ships. This after Taiwan's president said Beijing had no right to represent Taiwan during a speech last week. China views the island as part of its own territory. The State Department has called on China to, quote, act with restraint and avoid any further actions to undermine stability in the region. All right, the United States is getting ready to send missile defense systems to Israel. A limited number of troops will also be sent along with it temporarily in order to bolster Israel's defenses against Iran. CBS News Pentagon reporter Ellie Watson joins us now to talk more about this. So Ellie, what more can you tell us about the THAAD system?
Yeah, the THAAD, or the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense System, is a missile defense system specifically designed to intercept ballistic missiles. So those are the type of missiles Iran used in its April 13th attack against Israel, and the only type of missile it used in its October 1st attack against Israel. The THAAD comes with, it's a ground-based system, and it comes with 6 mobile launchers that each have 8 interceptor missiles and take about 100 troops to operate. This defense system will add to Israel's already in place systems like the Arrow, David's Sling, and the Iron Dome, and add to the U.S. capabilities that have been in the Eastern Mediterranean. Those U.S. Navy destroyers that have been in the Eastern Med since October of last year have helped in those last attacks, defending against Iran's ballistic missiles, taking a few of them down. It's been about 2 weeks since Israel has threatened to retaliate for that last Iranian attack, and the deployment of this system is a signal that U.S. and Israel both fear that Iran may attack after Israel's retaliation, lengthening this dangerous tit-for-tat between Iran and Israel.
All right, so let's talk about the United States also sending about 100 troops to operate that system. Explain the significance of that.
This is the most significant deployment of U.S. forces to Israel since the war in Gaza began last year. The U.S. has had a small number of forces in Israel, mostly to assist with advising on hostage recovery efforts. And of course, the U.S. sent about 1,000 personnel earlier this year to build that military pier to get some aid into Gaza for the people in Gaza. But this is a step beyond all that. President Biden and Secretary Austin, the defense secretary, have said they're doing this to bolster Israel's defense. But of course, this puts American troops closer to a war that only seems to be widening.
All right, Eleanor Watson reporting for us from the Pentagon this morning. Thank you, Ellie. But let's talk about this hurricane. As we've reported, false claims could endanger hurricane recovery efforts in the southeast, and now it's become a reality in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Here's why. FEMA crews in North Carolina were forced to relocate after a reported armed threat against government workers. That is according to a story first reported by the Washington Post. CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Skanga has more.
As the nearly 65,000 residents of hard-hit Rutherford County, North Carolina, struggle to clear endless mud and debris left behind by Hurricane Helene, help has hit a roadblock. Out of an abundance of caution, FEMA says instead of going door to door, disaster assistance teams there will be stationed at fixed locations, while the agency looks into alleged threats against their personnel. FEMA says search and rescue is still underway and disaster recovery centers remain open. The move comes as the Washington Post reported an email by the U.S. Forestry Service to federal responders in Rutherford County, alerting them of an apparent stand-down after National Guard troops reportedly encountered armed militia saying they were, quote, hunting FEMA. This as false claims swirl online that the federal government planned to halt search and rescue efforts in order to seize and bulldoze Chimney Rock inside Rutherford County. It's one of many conspiracy theories that have prompted FEMA to create a page on its site discrediting rumors and false information about its response to Helene.
They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants.
Former President Trump has repeatedly spread that debunked lie, though FEMA does sometimes provide grants to offset costs of migrant arrivals. The source of funding is separate from its pool for disaster relief.
We have individuals in need of assistance who are entitled to assistance who aren't seeking it because of the false information.
The Nobel Prize in Economics has been awarded to researchers who carry out their work in the United States. The study that earned them the prize coming up. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. Those economists who work in the U.S. won the Nobel Prize in Economics today, and the work that clinched the award for them is their research about how a country's institutions impact its economic growth. The committee chair said that the research gave a, quote, much deeper understanding of the root causes of why countries fail or succeed. 2 of the researchers are from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the other conducts his research at the University of Chicago. Congratulations to all 3. All right, many states in the southeast are still recovering from the recent hurricanes. NOAA released a before and after view of Chimney Rock, North Carolina. The town is one of hundreds hit by massive landslides, and now there's an effort to use technology to prevent catastrophes like this one. Dave Malikoff explains.
These geologists are on a mission.
This seems historic. It's unclear that there's ever been a storm this widespread that caused this much damage in this area.
Ben Meares and Francis Ringers are using laser scans and GPS cameras accurate down to 1 inch.
Oh my God!
These are the more than 600 Helene landslides they've mapped out so far.
Once we get up into the air and once we get satellite imagery, we expect to find hundreds, if not thousands, of landslides.
Thousands of landslides?
If this event is consistent with previous events where this much rain fell, then yes, we expect there might be thousands of landslides.
What we're seeing is that rainfall events are getting more extreme.
Meanwhile, at NASA outside of Washington, D.C., Dr. Dahlia Kirschbaum is looking down from space.
We have over 24 satellites and instruments orbiting Earth from NASA.
The map on this giant wall shows where NASA satellites are seeing rain falling right now. Those pulsing circles are where landslides have happened around the world.
What we try to do at NASA is understand the different conditions around which landslides may happen.
Data collected from NASA, the USGS, and other scientists with the help of artificial intelligence will soon help predict landslides.
My hope is that a community can take this model and effectively apply it and use it running in their community to better understand and even anticipate where we have the highest hazard for landslides.
Better predictions and preparations to help save lives. Dave Malikoff, CBS News, Atlanta.
All right, if you see a teenager these days, 9 times out of 10, they'll have a phone in their hands. If it's an adult, it's 10 times out of 10. But the exception could be found in New York City, where a group of teens is going low tech to hang out. CBS News reporter in New York, Hannah Klieger, has that story.
A group of teenagers are spending time in a park, laughing, crafting, just talking. It's only unusual because there isn't a single smartphone in sight. They're part of a small but growing group of Brooklyn students who formed the Luddite Club, named after a 19th century movement opposing industrialization.
During COVID, I kind of looked at my screen time and I was like, wow, I'm spending more than half of my time awake on my phone. Something needs to change.
The group gathers in Prospect Park every Sunday. It was formed at Brooklyn's Edward R. Murrow High School and has since expanded to other schools. Amanda Hannah McClear was a teacher at Murrow when she began to notice how many of her students were struggling with tech addiction.
Well, I had been called a Luddite for years, and it was not used in a positive way. It was very much derogatory. Luddites are often seen as anti-progress, backwards.
What is a Luddite?
Someone who is against the abuse, not the use of technology.
One day, a student named Ava Dela Cruz showed her videos of her weekly gatherings with Luddite friends, a group she joined after she felt herself spiraling after the pandemic.
Bro, now I'm suddenly in high school and I'm about to be in college, and my life basically, I feel like it escaped me completely.
They have different interests, attend different schools, but share their commitment to kick their phone habit. McClear was so inspired by their self-awareness that she quit her teaching job and jumped headfirst into making a documentary about them, co-produced by Dela Cruz.
When there's no phones around, at a Sunday meeting, they are drawing, painting, singing, dancing, writing. They do everything that teens should be doing.
They hope to release the film next year, but also launched a scavenger hunt featuring landmark Brooklyn institutions as a way to get young people to put their phones down and spend some time together, at least for a while. In Brooklyn, Hannah Klieger, CBS News, New York.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking at my device. Yeah, sorry. Let's talk about the MLB playoffs. They're underway. Next, we're going to take you to Los Angeles for a look at how fans feel about last night's game with the Dodgers. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. A multi-billion-dollar space mission launching today may reveal more about an icy moon circling planet Jupiter. CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood joins us now to talk about it. So, Bill, break down what we can expect to learn from this mission.
Well, first of all, it's going to take a long time to learn it. It's going to take 5.5 to 6 years for the Europa Clipper just to get there. But the scientific payoff is pretty dramatic. They know there is an ocean under the frozen crust of this moon, Europa. They can tell that by a variety of remote means with previous missions, ground-based observations, et cetera. They think there's actually 2 times as much water under the crust of Europa than there is in all of the oceans on Earth combined. They're hoping to find out with this mission, is that environment habitable? In other words, are the conditions there that could enable microbial life, perhaps, to have formed and even be there today? This mission is not searching for life specifically. They're really focused on the habitability of the moon. But depending on what they find, that could set the stage for future missions to go really take a really close look at it.
So, Bill, SpaceX says it's the farthest mission for one of its spacecrafts. How long, ultimately, is this voyage going to be?
Well, it's 1.8 billion miles to get there. You know, Jupiter is only about 500 million miles from Earth, but they have to take a roundabout path. They're going to go by Mars in March, get a gravity boost from Mars gravity. They'll come back to Earth in 2026, December, get another gravity assist flyby, and then they'll head out to Jupiter. So it's going to take 5.5 to 6 years just to get there. And then the mission's going to last probably 3 years. They're going to do 49 close flybys of Europa, this moon. And the probe is loaded with high-tech instruments to study this thing. It's going to be fascinating. It's like I said at the start, it's just going to take us a while to get the information.
500 million miles, is that all? Come on, that's not that bad. And
walk
as
in
you
the
know,
park. Walk in the park.
Exactly, walk in the park. Are we there yet? You know, SpaceX just launched what's also being called one of its most dramatic high-risk space flights to date on Sunday. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, it's really impressive. SpaceX has built this rocket called the Super Heavy Starship. It is the most powerful rocket ever built. Twice the thrust of the legendary Saturn V moon rocket, even NASA's new Space Launch System moon rocket. And Elon Musk and SpaceX view this rocket as the future of the company. The whole point of it is to be able to reuse both the first stage, which is called the Super Heavy, and the upper stage called the Starship. In other words, a fully reusable rocket. And to do that with this gigantic first stage, which we're looking at here, the engines on the bottom, they want to catch it. They want to fly it back to the launch site. And instead of deploying landing gear and touching down on a pad, they're literally going to go right back to the launch pad gantry. And these 2 giant mechanical arms come in and catch the rocket as it's coming down. It's remarkable. I was fairly stunned to see them pull this off on their first attempt. But they say this is critical to this concept of rapid reusability. And it was impressive. You can see those arms right now on the video. They reach out and grab the rocket as it comes down. Just an amazing thing to see.
All right, Bill Harwood, always making the business and the science of spaceflight interesting for us. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
The New York Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians face off tonight in Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Last night, the LA Dodgers dominated the New York Mets 9-0. Ryan, sorry. What happened? Where's Grimace when you need him? Where's Grimace? So let's talk about this National League Championship Series. The Dodgers have not allowed a single run in their last 3 postseason games. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News Los Angeles reporter Tina Patel. So, Tina, I know how fans in L.A. are reacting. I'm teasing all the guys in this studio. There's a lot of, like I said, grimace. There's a lot of grim faces in our studio this morning. Let's talk about what's going on and how the Dodgers are feeling.
I know. Well, you know, the Dodgers fans are really excited. Behind me, you can see that the grounds crew are here. They're getting everything ready because the game was last night. It's an afternoon game, so not a lot of turnaround time, but nobody is complaining because they are really feeling like the Dodgers are getting hot at the right time. Yes, you said it. 33 innings of Dodgers shutting out the opposite team. And then yesterday they had 9 runs, and that wasn't even any home runs. It was just a lot of people getting on base, doing what they need to do. And so Dodgers fans are feeling really optimistic that if they can keep this momentum going, that maybe they can get to the World Series. You know, they know they need to take it one game at a time, one series at a time, but they're feeling really good, hoping that they can keep this energy up and that they're getting hot at the right time.
And it's not just the team. You got Shohei Ohtani. He had an amazing game. What does he mean to the fans and to the city?
Oh, my gosh. You know, I was just talking to somebody, and, you know, when he signed that major contract to come to the Dodgers over the postseason, some people were saying, like, the amount of money, like, could he really be worth it? I think we're seeing he is worth it. This is the first time he's ever been in the postseason, but what he did during the regular season was amazing. More than 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. That's never been done before. And every time he comes up to the plate, I mean, people are just kind of on the edge of their seats because they don't know. He's really so good, and it's so nice to be able to see him in the postseason. We're hoping that he has a a great postseason, and he's able to maybe hit some out of the park. But you know what? It's just really fun to see everybody coming together. There's so many Japanese media that are here now at every game, so many people that maybe didn't pay attention to baseball before, but he's kind of drawn them in. He's really become a star here in LA, and we're just so excited to be able to watch him. And it kind of feels like he's making history, and we all get to be a part of it.
Boo, boo. I'm not a Mets fan, but I'm a New Yorker. So I gotta anything that's New York versus LA, I gotta go New York. I gotta go New York, Tina. Thanks so much as always. We'll talk to you.
I understand.
All right, that does it for me, but stay right where you are. Elizabeth Cook is live from San Francisco with all the breaking news coast to coast.